Hello, I'm Kelly, and welcome to Kelly Loves Books and Movies. Shout out to the Florida Panthers who just won the Stanley Cup. Very excited about that. I am back from a little vacation, and I thought I would do the roadmap to your life tag. So, first of all, I grew up in a very small town in rural southern Minnesota. So for that, I am picking Giants in the Earth by Ole Rolvag. It is about Norwegian immigrants moving to, they call it Dakota territory, so somewhere in the Dakotas, western, somewhere in that general area. And it's basically the story of coming to America, trying to build a life and farming. And it's kind of... It's a little bit different than most, novels that are talking about an immigrant experience or especially like on the plains. They all seem, other novels tend to be like hopeful and, this is a great thing. And Giants in the Earth kind of is not that. It's more dark and depressing, but it's by a Norwegian, so that kind of fits. So yeah, that's what I'm picking for my hometown. And then from there, college. College was in central Minnesota, a medium-sized city. I am picking Grand Opening by John Hassler. I know. I did have to read it for a class in college, and it's basically about a family that moves to this small town to open a grocery store, and kind of the small town politics of that, of them not being, being outsiders and everything that goes along with that. If you can sense the theme here, my books are off. My picks are about, at least my first two picks are about small towns in rural Minnesota. Gee. So yeah, it's actually one of my favorite. Actually, both of them are. Giants in the Earth and Grand Opening are probably both in my top 10 favorite books. And then in the middle, like during college, my aunt, her company transferred her to, they were they were expanding into Salt Lake City. So my aunt got transferred there, and so I spent my breaks and summers there in college, and also after college from like the end of 96 to the end of 97 I lived there. And Utah, you think I'm gonna pick like something outdoorsy, something like, Edward Abbey, but no, I am picking the Book of Basketball. Now, when I grew up playing basketball every chance I could get, every time outside in the winter, as soon as it was slightly warm enough and the driveway was clear in the neighborhood, we would all be out playing. And then growing up, we did not have the Timberwolves. And then like in the late 80s, we got cable. Of course, small town, we got things a lot later than everyone else did. So cable came along and ESPN, and my favorite team was the Utah Jazz. So when my aunt and uncle moved there, I was like, oh my gosh, I'll get to go to Jazz games. And they weren't basketball fans, but they became basketball fans because of me. Anyway, so I associate Utah with basketball, and I was lucky enough to be there during really the great years of the Utah Jazz teams. Especially that 96-97 team that went to the finals against Michael Jordan and the Bulls. I got to go back in the day when you had to get tickets for things, and there wasn't really the internet, and you had to actually go to the place and get in line and you got a wristband. And when there was going to be a game 5, we went to the Smiths, which was where you got tickets back then, and you got a wristband with a number, and only so many numbers got drawn to possibly get tickets, and my number got drawn, and I got lucked out. I lucked out, and we got tickets for Game 5 of the NBA Finals in 1997, which is the Michael Jordan flu game. Also, in my house, it is known as the day Michael Jordan broke my heart. Anyway, so yeah, I was at the flu game. It didn't turn out the way we wanted, but it was pretty cool. And yeah, for me, Utah is basketball. So I chose the book of basketball, which is Bill Simmons pretty much ranking like 100 basketball players. And it's just really talks, and a lot of his rankings are, players of that era that I got to watch play there because we went to a lot of games. So, Kobe and Shaq and Charles Barkley and, all those great Western Conference players of the, mid 90s. It was awesome. Book of basketball. From there, let's see, back home. But then I lived in Florida. And I had a hard time. I lived in Florida for 9 years. I had a hard time coming up with something for Florida. But then I remembered I did read Dave Barry's book, Best State Ever, which he defends how, everybody knows Florida Man and all the dumb Florida people stories. And this book is sort of a defense of Florida that, yes, people are kind of bonkers there sometimes. And, for some reason it attracts that type of behavior. But the book actually defends Florida. And it's Dave Barry, so it's funny. And I want to read it again because it's been a long time since I read it. And so that's what I'm picking for living in Florida. And then Florida, I'm back in Minnesota in St. Paul. And I don't think you can choose anything else for St. Paul other than something by F. Scott Fitzgerald. So I'm picking The Great Gatsby. I mean, I don't remember. It's a good book. It's not all necessarily one of my favorites, but this town belongs to F. Scott Fitzgerald, so that's what I'm picking. And then also, it also said, a book for where you want to go or where you want to live or where you're going. And I figured I would pick a book for Las Vegas. It is one of the places to visit, but I believe I'm eventually. Retirement's a long ways away, but I think that's where I will end up retiring. So I picked My Week at the Blue Angel Motel, and the author, Matthew O'Brien. I'd have to look. Matthew O'Brien, I think. He actually has written a few books about Las Vegas, about living at the time. The Blue Angel Motel was on East Fremont, kind of out. It no longer exists. It's been torn down, but it's one of those cheap motels filled with the lower levels of the lower rungs of society. His experience there, and like he talks to people who live in the tunnels. And he has another book about that. Actually, I just found he has two books about people that live in the tunnels in Las Vegas. And anyway, just a fascinating book about Vegas, and not the glitz and glamour and casinos and gambling and all the Vegas that you think of, but the other side of Vegas, sort of, the people kind of left behind that part of Vegas. So those are my picks. That's the roadmap of my life. Thanks for watching. See y'all next time.